Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back in DC and back here at the Middle East Institute, this time with a very different mission. The Prime Minister of Pakistan. Following the conflict between India and Pakistan, recently formed this delegation and gave us a mission. And our mission is peace. Peace through dialogue and diplomacy with our arch rival, India. And you might ask us, then why are we here in Washington and not not speaking to our adversaries? Well, they refuse to talk. And we feel that as a friend of India, the United States would be able to speak to them as a friend and explain to them that this is not in their interest. So if you see the sort of delegation from the Indian side, or even just the Indian government, I suppose our own government, represent an older generation. But what I want to ask them is, do they want to damn my generation to the same fate? We fought generation over the issue of Kashmir. Last decades, we've had the issue of terrorism. I was going to say take us close to war, but actually no, take us to all-out war. And now they've opened a new front. The Indian government, in violation of the UN Charter, have threatened to cut off the water supply for 240 million Pakistan. So now they're damning my generation, future generations, not only to fight over Kashmir, not only to go to full-out war whenever there's a terrorist attack, but now we're damning future generations of Indians and Pakistanis to fight over water. This is why I am so confident, I am so passionate in our cause. I refuse to damn the people of my country, and I bear no ill will to the people of India. I refuse to damn the youth of India. My children and their children will fight over water, over Kashmir, over terrorism. We just got through a 5-day war. And while by all metrics, the Indians won't admit this, but by all metrics, get the kinetic, military component, Pakistan won. We downed their planes. They're bigger than us. They're stronger than us. But we were able to repel their assault diplomatically. India's diplomatic position, the rehyphenization of India and Pakistan. Donald Trump didn't rehyphenate India and Pakistan. Pakistan didn't rehyphenate India and Pakistan. India rehyphenated India and Pakistan by launching this stupid war. Kashmir, before this conflict, in violation of international law, of course, in violation of the UN Charter, of course, in violation of the promises they made to the people of Kashmir. But the Indian line was that Kashmir is an internal issue for India. When President Trump talks about mediating peace and resolving the issue in Kashmir, it becomes an international issue. The Indians also now say, as a result of this 5-day war, that Kashmir is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. So militarily, your net security provider couldn't secure their own planes and have left South Asia, and by extension the rest of the world, given that we're two nuclear powers, less secure. The new normal that they want to impose on us, if there's a terrorist attack in India, Indian occupied Kashmir, they don't need proof, it means war. That means that if there's a terrorist attack in Pakistan, so we also have to go to war to India. So that leaves all of us in a very precarious situation. We've got a ceasefire, we welcome that. But we've lowered the threshold of conflict so much that any madman, can you imagine? Okay, we have a specific context of terrorism, but terrorism has all shapes and forms. Can you imagine that logic sort of here in the United States? Any wild act of violence by someone from another country, you mean immediately you launch into war? This exposes India, it exposes Pakistan to an extremely dangerous situation. Not only do we not take on the terrorists, because we're taking on each other rather than the people who actually conduct these attacks, but we also endanger the lives of both our countrymen. And the way we saw the nuclear escalation, the way that the escalation ladder rose so drastically during this conflict, it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to think that by the time there's another conflict, perhaps there won't be time for President Trump to intervene. Before things go horribly, horribly wrong. So when I say we are here to pursue peace, it is because we believe it is the only viable path forward, not only for India and Pakistan, but also the international community. India may have 1,000 issues with Pakistan. If you're going to refuse to talk to Pakistan, those issues will remain. Obviously, in this case, the terrorist attack that took place in Indian-occupied Kashmir, this time round, Pakistan had absolutely no role whatsoever. We offered an international impartial inquiry immediately. India refused. If the facts were different, the United States policy in this context would also be very different. The truth of the matter is we had nothing to do with this. But terrorism is a problem. I know that the US is left from Afghanistan and there are other issues in the world, but just because you're gone, it doesn't mean that terrorism's over. In fact, we're in a far more precarious situation today than we ever were before. The US withdrawal from Afghanistan has left a vacuum in that country. And I'm not even saying that goes so far as to doubt the intent of the Afghan regime. Let's give that sort of, let's say, no, they're too committed to ensuring their soil is not used for terrorism. It doesn't change the fact they do not have the capacity. They don't have a standing army. They don't know CT. The US, Pakistan, we've developed this tool, this skill, this aspect of our policing, our military, over the course of 2-3 decades, even more. And there is a soup of terrorist groups in Afghanistan. Before, when NATO was there, and there was the Afghani government or the Karzai government, whatever, varying degrees of effectiveness, but you had all of NATO's might, plus that's the government in place, hounding these groups, fighting these groups. You didn't eliminate them. We never accused you of tolerating them or supporting them. The fact is that terrorism and combating terrorism is an ongoing process. Once you've left, okay, maybe they took a break for like 6 months. And they're figuring out what else to do. There's groups in Afghanistan that are problematic for Pakistan. be it the BLA, the TTP, all of these groups enjoy the ability to function, and not only function, what's sort of more alarming than just the functioning, it's the ability to coordinate and collaborate amongst each other. We're seemingly disparate groups without any ideological linkage. Religious extremists and separatist groups, they coordinate to conduct attacks in Pakistan. But they're not the only terrorist groups in Afghanistan. There's Daesh, there's the ETIM, and I could go on and on. In fact, the groups that India has a concern about, that Pakistan, according to the FATF procedures, have taken appropriate action against, their leadership during the original Afghan Jihad, the Mujahideen phase, when we didn't call them terrorists, we called them the Mujahideen, and to quote Ronald Reagan, the moral equivalent to George Washington. So in that phase of our history, our collective history, even the groups that India has a concern about, I'm talking about LET, LEG, those groups, their leadership fought that war as Mujahideen. When you up and left after that war, they had nothing to do. They were told that this is the right thing to do, that this was the moral thing to do. American tax dollars went into educating them that this is what you have to do. So once the war was over, they went and picked up in their mind what was another just cause and turned their guns from one border to the next. As we stand today, Pakistan is combating a resurgence of terrorism in Balochistan, in Pakhtunkhwa. At the moment, this year, the rate at which terrorist attacks have taken place in Pakistan, if we continue on this trajectory, this year will be the bloodiest year in Pakistan's history. Can you imagine that? That means there are more terrorist attacks taking place today after 2001 than the bloody spell we saw following 2007. And we have evidence that we have presented at the United Nations to the US government, dossier after dossier, of India's involvement in supporting, be it the BLA, and even the TTP and other organizations that conduct attacks in Pakistan. It's not only that we've supported your evidence, India has admitted this. In their joint communique, Pakistan at Sharm el-Sheikh, they've admitted their role in supporting these groups in Balochistan. In 2000, I want to say 17, but the date's probably wrong, probably earlier than that, Pakistan caught an Indian army officer, Kulbhushan Yadav, in Balochistan. He is still in our custody. 16. Thank you. He is still in our custody. Does that mean that every terrorist attack means I have to go to war with India? Before I came here, there was a terrorist attack in Balochistan. A school bus was targeted by this BLA Majid Brigade nexus. Children were killed. Pakistan wants to combat these groups. In order to do so, we require coordination, cooperation, regional, international. We need to deal with the new reality in Afghanistan. We need to help the government. I know it doesn't sound good, but help the government build capacity, or at least figure out how we're going to deal with this. You can't leave a vacuum unattended. And I believe that they need to build up their capacity, and we need to facilitate their building their capacity. We need to understand the concerns of Pakistan, that while we're combating terrorism, this menace is increasing. At the moment, these groups have also started targeting foreign citizens in Pakistan, our foreign guests in Pakistan. My nightmare scenario is, it hasn't happened yet, hasn't happened yet, and the incident in Indian occupied Kashmir had nothing to do with us. But my nightmare scenario is that either these groups are attacking us in Pakistan, or these groups who function within Afghanistan, but the border is now more porous than it was before, because pre the fall of Kabul, it was manned on both sides. Pakistan manned it on one side and Afghanistan manned it on the other. And while now Afghanistan is also a little bit manning their side, it's nowhere near the scale as it was before. So we have a porous border. These groups have targeted foreign nationals within Pakistan. It's not too much of a stretch of imagination that any one of those groups in that soup, be it ETIM, be it Daesh, be it LET, all these other alphabetical conglomerates, if they, heaven forbid, decide to launch an attack in another country. If we continue to politicize the issue of terror, to further our own narrow aims, it undermines the actual fight against terror. So Pakistan would like to pursue peace with India in our interests and in their interests. In order for us to effectively combat terror, regional cooperation, international cooperation will ultimately be incredibly important. We cannot achieve a permanent peace without addressing the issue of Kashmir. And I know that it gets India's back against the wall. I don't just say that to fluster them, but other than my strong-held, impassioned belief that the people of Kashmir deserve their right to self-determination as enshrined by the UN Security Council resolutions, even if India doesn't believe in those things, if India wants to combat terrorism, it's going to have to deal with Kashmir. Because it is not true that every terrorist attack that will take place there will come from Pakistan or they'll fall from the sky. Indians, Kashmiris will provide the India, they know Indian Kashmir, Kashmiris, Indians separately, especially those facing suppression and repression like the ones in Maqbuza Kashmir, will react. They will be the cannon fodder for either an existing terrorist group or some new terrorist group or some future terrorist group. So we have to talk about Kashmir with India because it is the root cause of all our trouble. But also because if India is serious about combating terrorism, they have to create a more conducive environment in Kashmir. You can't cage an entire population and expect bulldoze their houses, find them with pellet guns, and expect them not to react. So we have to talk terror. We have to talk Kashmir. And finally, we have to talk water. No civilized country can endorse this move. In the age of climate challenges that are to come, water scarcity and water wars, or anyway, used to be a theory. India shutting off Pakistan's water supply is laying the foundations for the first nuclear water war. You've said that cutting off our water supply would be an act of war. We don't say it in a jingoistic manner. We don't say it with any relish. It is an existential crisis for us. Any country on the planet, no matter their size, their strength, or their ability, would fight for their survival and fight for their water. India must abide by the Indus Water Treaty. The United States, other countries across the world must take a firm stance that they will not allow India to not only violate the Indus Water Treaty, but take their threat forward. You cannot allow this precedent to be set in the Pakistan context, because we'll fight the first war, but it won't be the last. If India is allowed to cut us our water, that means that every upper riparian with hostilities to a lower riparian now has a carte blanche. And if our dialogue and diplomacy in pursuit of peace are to be successful, if we are to talk to India, have a positive dialogue with India, make new arrangements, new deals, perhaps even new treaties with India, then surely they first must abide by the old treaties and take back their decision vis-a-vis the Indus Water Treaty. India has belligerently refused. They refused cooperation on terror, you saw it. The Prime Minister of Pakistan said, let's have an investigation. They said no. They refused President Trump's mediation. They're currently refusing dialogue. All that means is there'll be more terrorism, there'll be more war, and there'll be no peace. The Prime Minister of India and his government may want to damn his people to this fate. I refuse to damn my people, and I refuse to damn the people of India to this fate, which is why my delegation and I will be traveling from capital to capital with a simple message. We want peace, and we need your help. Later today, we'll continue our activities, engaging with officials here in Washington, D.C. From here, we go to London. From London, we go to, I want to say Paris, but maybe Brussels and Strasbourg also, to Europe. And we'll keep at it until our neighbors realize that it's in their interest and in our interest to sit down across the table and figure out our issues. There's no military solution to any of our problems. And there's so much more that we can achieve together than we can achieve apart. Surely, India and Pakistan working together, we can eradicate terrorism from the subcontinent. India and Pakistan working together can create that conducive environment in Kashmir where the people that live there can live there free from repression, suffocation, and actually see prosperity. India and Pakistan's cooperation obviously would require the waters to flow freely, but but it should lead to broader cooperation. The challenge of climate change and water scarcity is a challenge for Pakistan. It's also a challenge for India. How are we going to face the coming decade? We've already experienced devastating floods, droughts, the manifestation of climate change in various forms. I believe Pakistan and India working together can meet that challenge as well. If we don't rise to this occasion, then let there be no mistake. Blame for the carnage, the devastation, the scourge, the poorly will lie at the footsteps of Narendra Modi and his government. You've heard today, I don't want to go into repetition, litigate our views on each other. We think they're extreme. They think we're extreme. But I mean, here in America, you witness it. There's Pakistani dysphoria, there's Indian dysphoria. We're not going to war on your streets. In the UK, there's a Pakistani dysphoria, there's an Indian dysphoria. We get on together very well. The problem within India and Pakistan at the moment is there's such a cutoff of any form of interaction. It's not just that our government aren't talking to each other, our artists aren't talking to each other, we don't have the same people-to-people contact, business-to-business. We don't trade. I'll end on that note. Trade. Your president is engaging in trade discussions with both India and Pakistan. And hopefully he's going to get you a big, beautiful trade deal with both India and Pakistan. But if India and Pakistan aren't trading amongst each other, there's only a limit about how beautiful that trade deal is going to be. If India and Pakistan are not only trading amongst each other, then the economic benefits for your trade deal enhance. If India and Pakistan are trading amongst each other, it also means we allow transit trade, which increases the effectiveness of whatever trade deal is about to come about. And ultimately, if we are able to achieve peace in South Asia, unlock our economic potential. I mean, you know, there's a lot of talk here about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and obviously it's great being able to trade that way. But how fantastic would it be all the way from Pakistan all the way to the ports of Chittagong in Bangladesh? We'd have an India-Pakistan economic corridor. So there's this prosperity for our people, for their people, and peace in our region. I don't underestimate the challenges we face. India has clearly decided to favor unilateralism. It is inspired by hegemons all over the world. It believes that it has a license to conduct itself outside of international law. Our hope is your President Trump. So wish us luck. I'm very grateful to all of you for organizing this interaction for myself and our delegation. We've received a very positive response from everybody we have engaged with, and I look forward to meeting you all again soon. Thank you.